Welcome back to On the Soul's Terms podcast. I'm Chris Skidmore. And today I'm joined by Kira Sutherland. I'm taking this from Kira's bio. Kira is an Australian naturopath, nutritionist, herbalist, and medical astrologer. Known for her vibrant, straightforward teaching style, Kira has lectured in medical astrology within Australia, North America, and Europe. In private practice for over 25 years, Kira combines her knowledge of natural medicine with her passion for medical astrology into a wonderful mix of mind-body medicine. Kira's medical astrology training and mentoring programs attract hundreds of students every year from around the world, with rave reviews about her teaching style and breadth of knowledge and application. You can find out more about her work at astrologyofhealth.com. So yes, Kira joins me to talk from the sixth house, the house of health, wellness, rhythms, rituals, and routines. We discuss the relationship between the sixth and its counterpart, the 12th, a house associated with the dreaming mind and the places of the out of the ordinary world, represented by hospitals, ashrams, asylums, and monasteries. Mars is in its joy in this house, the sixth that is, and we discuss the labors and hard work that go into maintaining good health in one's life. We bring this in contrast to the 12th house, where our chronic, as in Kronos or Saturn, ailments arise when the sixth is not managed well. Of course, we go to many mythic places too, and somewhere in this episode I convey a story from Marie-Louise von France about the origin story of rice, and I'm conscious that I've recently told this story on the podcast, but I've left it in regardless because of its flow in the episode. But I'm aware that this is quite sixth house of me, the house of repetition. And perhaps with myth, we need to hear these stories many times before they truly sink in. Or at least that's how I'll justify my goldfish memory. Anyway, I hope you enjoy the show. And now, here's Kira. Kira, welcome back to the show.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm excited for this.
Yeah, me too. And Kira and I are going to be going into the sixth house today, specifically wandering around inside of that house together. Why have I chosen you for the sixth house, Kira?
Oh, why? Because I'm a medical astrologer, but I'm a naturopath, nutritionist, herbalist. And so my life is about the sixth house and coaching people around sixth house stuff. So it is one of my favorite houses. Yes. Yeah. It's a perfect health fit.
Yes, definitely. And I was enjoying our pre-podcast conversation about what's in the sixth for you right now as you're in Sydney and Manly. And can you tell us a bit about, like, just right at this moment, what's there in the sixth that will maybe contextualize us?
So from the chart I'm looking at, we've got Pisces ruling the sixth, but we have the North Node in the sixth, opposite, obviously, the South Node, but directly the South Node is conjunct we're only missing it by like 2 minutes. We've got Mars in the 12th, but in the 6th, we have Saturn and Neptune. And I love that. I love that we're bringing in Saturn in the physical reality, but we also have Neptune in that spiritual point of mind-body medicine. So I'm excited.
Yeah, both in Aries. So then that's ruled by that Mars that's hanging out over in the 12th. And then we've got Saturn in the 6th. And we're just talking about the joys. So we've got so many places to go in this house. And I really appreciate sort of you bringing your wisdom and your knowledge of medical astrology. And that feels so significant for the 6th. But I think maybe we could start with that it's an ending, isn't it? It's the last of the... I think you said the last of the personal houses.
Yeah, I think that's what they say. It's the last physical, like the last house that's just about you before you move up into the other and society. So it's an integration house, right? Like it's mutable, but Earth, like if we're going from traditional rulers and Virgo, but it's the house where we integrate everything we've learned about ourselves, and then we go out above the horizon to our life outside of the internal world.
Yeah, I love that point between the 6th and the 7th. It's I've explored it mythically as Artemis is the 6th and then Aphrodite is the 7th, which is kind of like Virgo and
Oh,
Libra. So Artemis is full self-containment, so holds
yeah,
those first six houses, and is virginal in the sense of like fully self-contained
yeah,
and integrated, right?
yeah,
And then we do the opening up to the other, and the whole new um, jar of Dionysian wine opens there. And
yeah.
Aphrodite's like bringing us in over that threshold, and Artemis is sort of like, wait, we need more time here. So there's something about time and timing in this house, I think.
I love the
Um,
idea of Artemis there. I like that.
and she's just behind us here. Yeah, she's just up here with Apollo on my plate behind me that I've got from Greece for my recent trip. So that's the brother sister Apollo Artemis, the sun and
Yeah.
the moon. But yeah, she knew a lot. Tell me more about that. What do you feel into with Artemis and the sixth and what she knows?
Well, and it fits that Virgo, Virgin,
Yeah.
that whole intelligence and wisdom and mercurial. um she just knew so much, and she was one of, I'm gonna vary it here, but it was Apollo who took care of Asclepius, but his sister was there the whole time, and she's
Mm,
meant to have taught him many things as well
mm,
around healing. And the sixth house is traditionally the house of illness, but I also see the sixth house very much as the house of preventative health, or where we do hard work to stay healthy. And that's very much was part of Artemis's and then Asclepius and Hygeia's domain. Oh, I've
mm.
gone a little bit, mythological there. But yeah,
Well, that's
yeah,
great. Why don't we just break that down for a second for people of like this relationship? Because, yeah, Artemis is the sort of, as Asclepius's aunt, essentially, always
yeah,
felt very
yeah,
significant to me. And she's there at his birth, and she's also there at his death, um, in that she encourages Asclepius to go down to the underworld to retrieve Hippolytus to bring him back to life,
yeah.
because he's so dedicated to Artemis. So in the end, Asclepius's bond to Artemis um, ends up bringing him into the bringing back someone from the dead moment. So it's
Mm,
like when he takes medicine too far, actually. It's an
yeah.
interesting part of the journey where
When
he
he gets in
takes it.
trouble for
Yeah,
that.
he gets
Yep.
in serious
Yep.
trouble for that. And yeah, the thunderbolts come down upon him. But he does that in service to Artemis. So it's interesting that Artemis is there at his birth. Artemis is there ultimately at his death. And I feel Artemis there in his life.
And and she's the midwife, right? Wasn't
She's
she
the midwife.
born and had to turn around and birth her own brother, right?
Yeah,
That's
that's
why she
the,
gets associated with midwifery.
yes.
And then she teaches Asclepius midwifery, right?
Oh,
No, sorry, she teaches Chiron. Oh my God. Now I'm going to get in trouble with my math.
that's okay. I can help you through the myths.
Chiron. She teaches Chiron midwifery, because Chiron often in medical astrology gets associated with birth and
Huh.
conception and having babies and having miscarriages and stuff. Sorry.
I did
Yeah.
not know that Chiron had that association with midwifery. So
Yeah.
that's
With
really
birthing.
interesting.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Sorry. I was dabbling between two myths there.
Well, I
And
mean, they do
Chiron
get,
taught
they get,
Asclepius, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
I think the Chiron and Asclepius myths are very much intertwined with each other anyway,
Yeah.
obviously, as Chiron is
Yeah.
Asclepius's foster father and what have you.
Yeah. But that Artemis and that sixth house and that detail and that there's so many things I could go with there for health wise, but
And
I
her
should probably stay.
connection to
Yeah.
nature and to the herbs and to the lunar cycles and to
Yes.
all of these things, and how she is that lunar goddess who just knows herself so well. And I think that's part of the sixth, right? It's like
Yeah.
we've had the experiences of the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, right? We've gone through
Yeah.
I mean, it's sort of like to say we've gone through puts it a little bit too time
Yeah.
bound, but like that's the movement through
Well,
those.
and the six is where you're integrating it all.
Yeah.
You're integrating it into that. If we think of that six right before into the seventh, it's kind of that full moon moment from sixth to seventh, right? You're halfway through a
Hmm.
cycle.
Mm-hmm.
That's that integration to perfection. And the sixth house has a lot to do with that, hard work and making it better and creating that beautiful structure to hold everything in. That perfection and analysis and assessment is very sixth house, whether it's to do with work, self, or health. It's a lot of work. Sixth is it's daily work and labor, right? It's a workhorse, that house. Yeah.
And that's interesting. The word labor then also fits back into the midwifery in a sense, because it could be the labors, but also the labor, because ultimately we're doing the labors, but we're also going through labor because we're going to be birthed out of that into the full moon, into the seventh, into our lives.
Yeah. I love that. And if you think about this, 1 through 6 being below the horizon, and you're doing the work a little bit in the dark by yourself, and then you're birthing, like literally, I mean, I know there's other associations with conception and houses, but I won't go there. But, you're creating for self to then share with others, right?
Yeah.
It's a very analytical house, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And there's lots of sort of details to take care of. And I think the sifting and sorting process, I think about that with some of the Virgo myths, like Psyche's task when she has to separate out all those seeds. So there's a big pile of seeds and she has to put them all in their right pile, which she can't do. But then the animal kingdom, the ants, come and help her to do that. And it's like that sifting and sorting. What of these first 5 houses, where should I put all of this, in a sense, right?
And ants are known for hard labor.
Of course.
Right? They're again, it's hard labor.
They're
and they
soldiers,
can lift so much
soldier
more.
ants.
Yeah, literally. And they're the detail. And the 6th house medically has part rulership. One of the big things is the small intestines. Right? And the small intestines are the organ that literally discerns or discriminates or decides what you've eaten. Is it going to become part of you? Is it going to integrate the food you've eaten, into who you are? Or is it going to bypass it and let it go to the small intestines and leave the body? It is the integration organ of the body. It's the most beautiful rulership alignment. Like, it couldn't fit better. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And and with those seeds, like, they need to all go into their right place, and it's the gut system that can do that, not the mind. And I think this is one thing in the 6th, right? Because it can this is where we could slip into neurosis, I feel, if we're not. That's why that part of the myth of Psyche, it's her first task, it's her first labor, is to sift and sort between which of the seeds go where. And she looks at it and thinks this is an impossible task, so that she can't do it with that mind, but her gut can do it, right? And the ants that are symbolic of the work that's going on underneath and all those neural pathways, but also, as you say, the hard work and the heavy lifting goes down to those smallest things, those smallest little creatures.
Well, and the 6th, because of its traditional ruler of Mercury, it is also the nervous system, which is the brain and the mind and all the nerves. And we now know in medical astrology, we now know in medicine that the gut, especially small intestines, have a direct pathway to the brain. The gut-brain axis is this huge thing we now talk about. And it's such a perfect 6th house, because our nervous system influences our digestive system, especially the intestines.
Yeah.
And we create a lot of the chemicals that make us, I'm going to use the word feel, but the way we think and process things in our brain, a lot of that is made in our small intestines, we now know, right? Like serotonin and other neurotransmitters, how we operate, are made in the gut.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if we come back to these words you were using, like discern and sort of discriminate and also expel, it's like, I feel that Mars in its joy in here. So maybe we could sort of enter into that, because I find it really fascinating that Mars is in its joy and it's in the 6th. And we were just talking about how Saturn is in its joy in the 12th. And I find that to be really fascinating between those two. But maybe we can enter through Mars's role then of actioning and killing off and discriminating and this kind of energy.
Yeah. Well, and, so the 6th house, again, I was about to drift medical, but maybe that's okay here. The 6th house is it's the house of labors and hard work and service to others. And it's this house of acute illness, but it's also the house of routine and ritual, and literally health. Your health of your physical body is totally dependent on your daily routine and how much effort and labor you put in to being healthy or being ill. That in some ways, I see that 6th house, it is the house of illness, but it is also the house of your physical health and kind of where you put in the hard work as preventative health. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
So Mars doesn't mind getting down and fighting its fight and doing its hard work. Mars is action and drive and your fight. And I mean, whether you're in an office or we're talking about your physical body, health itself is exhausting, right? Does anyone want to have to pay attention to their health every day? No, but they absolutely have to. Otherwise, they're not in a good body and it's going to stop them doing other things. So I love, from a medical standpoint, I love that Mars is there, because you have to put in the effort to stay healthy or have illness.
Yeah.
For me, it works. I don't know. Mythologically, how does that work for you?
Well, mythologically, for me, having Mars there brings me to the heroes. And I think about Hercules and how he does his 12 labors and why he does his 12 labors. Ultimately, he's gone. Some big tragedy has occurred. And essentially, there's a deep illness happening in his world, in his psyche. And he's haunted, essentially, by Heracles, glory of Hera, and the sort of dynamic that goes on between Heracles and Hera.
Yeah.
And he goes to the oracle and essentially says, what do I do about this illness, right? I mean, that's really what he's saying. What do I do about this dis-ease that's going on deeply inside me? Because he is, if you look at the statues of Heracles and you look at the artwork, he's tortured, he's a tortured soul, really from the beginning. I mean, he's essentially, his stepmother sends 2 snakes at him right at the beginning to take him and his twin brother out, which is also interesting, though, because the snake and healing, and I wonder if there is that sort of element of the Asclepian even within that, with those snakes. But, he goes to the oracle, and the oracle obviously drops in and feels, okay, what is needed then for his redemption? And so he goes on his 12 labors, which are essentially 10 labors that become 12, which we could say is the whole wheel, right?
Yeah, but it's also hard work, right?
Yes, all of it is
hard work, literally.
Yeah.
And Mars is muscles, and a lot of it rules the muscles of the body and metabolism and our fire. And that's the thing, we think of him as being this incredibly muscled, strong, what he had to endure. It's very Martian.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And he is the strongest, he is that demigod that is understood to be the most powerful physically. So therefore,
which is Mars.
And which is 6 as well. And he is that ultimate health, isn't he? He's kind of like the expression of that. Like if he was to take up if he was always able to throw the discus the furthest, or wrestle the best, or whatever it was, right? He could always face down not just the human or the demigod opponents, but the monsters. And really all of his labors are something to do with the monstrous. So he has to continue to come back into the monstrous and wrestle. and wrestle the monsters.
And, we look at, in some ways, sport is Mars, right? And sport going back in ancient times, and we look to, but Mars is also war and fighting, right? And you go back to, the Olympics, like the creation of the idea of the Olympics is very Martian, right?
Yeah.
You're simulating battle and war and who's strongest and best, and it's that effort that you have to put in on a daily basis to be the strongest and the healthiest. And it all, I never thought about it that way, but yeah. And Mars, and again, this is my medical astrologer, Mars is, it's your muscles and your drive. It's one of the malefics or, bad or illness bringers, but it also fortifies you. And it's a planet of pain. Right? Inflammation, acute ailment, pain. But I'm going on to 80 layers here. We often, I think you and I were talking about this privately the other day, people don't make change unless they're in pain. Often.
Yeah.
And health, especially, sixth house, hard work. Often we need to be in pain to physically change things we're doing about our health and illness. We often have to get to that crisis point.
Yeah.
To have that transformative snake shift of, I'm just going to layer it all together there.
Yeah, why not? Thank you.
Mars, in traditional medical astrology, Mars is part of the immune system. So getting sick, sixth house, because Mars is your army that goes in and fights. If you think about your red and your white blood cells and things that your body goes into battle when you're ill to fight. And so Mars is part of, a lot of people in modern will go, oh, Neptune, but Mars is part of the immune system.
Yeah, I love that. And it really brings me back to those ants, actually, because that's the army. That's the army heading in, right? That's the red and white blood cells and going, okay, we see the problem. So Psyche, it's interesting. Psyche is looking at this big, ultimately, excuse my language, but a clusterfuck, because it's a massive mountain of seeds and there's nothing really that she can do about those seeds. But then she sort of gives up on the conscious level, and her unconscious of the animal helper or the instinctive level kicks in. And that's what the ants coming along and saying, like, no, we can do that. This is like, we actually like doing that. And that's the thing about Mars energy, right? It gets such a bad rap being malefic and all of that kind of stuff. But it's,
no, I love it.
You love it, yeah. Well, all that Aries.
It's hard work.
Yes.
Yeah, it's hard work and action, and we wouldn't get shit done if it wasn't for Mars, right?
We'd just be sitting with Venus and reclining, which is also great.
Yes, but too much of that can cause a problem, right? And they antidote for healing. Mars and Venus antidote each other.
Because you've got to have the rest following the labor.
Yeah. Or if you have inflammation, Venus is the soothing emollient. It soothes and yeah. And
can we spend a little time with inflammation and Mars? Because is this how you see that many of the illnesses are around inflammation, like many of the body's strifes?
Yeah, absolutely. Or infection, a virus, cold, flu. Inflammation is the body being aggro. So inflammation truly is heat, redness, pain, or swelling.
Heat, redness, pain, swelling. Heat, redness, pain, swelling. Okay,
doesn't have to be all of those.
Yeah,
that's the true terminology of inflammation. Is something is aggravated and it's trying to heal, right? Like a lot of our things are our own body. Like you get a fever when you catch a virus, because your body's trying to burn off the virus. That's actually why we have a fever. It turns up the dial to try to kill it.
Which is very Mars, obviously.
It is very Mars. And the sixth house, going back to the intestines, we now know that majority of our immune system resides in and the immune system gets given to the 12th house. But we now know most of our immune system, 70% to be specific, sits in the sixth house. Sits in the intestine.
Yes, it's in the
which is the sixth house. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's in the sixth. So I don't know how we transmitted this info, but the 6-12 opposition
Yeah.
of unconscious, as you were talking about, you talked about her surrendering and going into that unconscious.
Into the
There's surrender.
instincts, even
Instinct.
into
Yeah.
the animal. It's like the conscious self could only do so much, and then
Yeah.
the animal instinct needed to kick in order to
Yeah.
really work. So then over to the 12th. I mean, I'm just thinking about those snakes now. I've never really thought about them as snakes. And of course, Hercules strangles them as a baby, and that's kind of like
Oh, yeah.
indicative of just how strong he is from when he's born. But also, they are two snakes, and I wonder if he does have that. Those labors definitely feel sixth house, and they feel like the work we got to do, and the redemptions, and the wrestling.
12 labors is a lot of work,
It's
right?
a lot
That's
of
not
work.
like, here, go do 2 things, right?
No.
That's like a list.
That's a whole list, yeah. And interestingly, Brian talks a lot about this, that his first 6 labors are in the Peloponnese. So his first 6 labors are local. And then he goes out and does the world labors. So in a sense, with the houses,
totally
you get, it fits really well where we go through the houses, we go through the first 6, and then we have to leave the local part, as in the me,
Nest.
the personal.
You have to leave the nest.
Leave the nest and head out. And that's also maybe part of the 6th, even though we've left the 4th into the 5th, which feels like a nest leaving exercise. Something about the 6th integrates what happened between the 4th and the 5th as well, doesn't it? Because I think that's a big rite of passage moment, 4th to 5th.
Oh, God, yeah.
And then the 6th goes like, okay, am I still okay? Am I still worthy? Is it okay to have pleasure in my life? Or is that going against the grain, or these kinds of things? Again, the sifting and sorting between those two.
The detail.
The detail.
The detail house.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a hard, like we talked about labors, it's hard work.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You really have to put it in, and you kind of never feel like it's done or perfect, right? It's that whole assessing, work on, assess, look for the faults, keep working on it, make it better, make it better. And again, health is like that. Forever, you are juggling between, our whole lives are juggling between that illness and health and how we have to support it.
I mean, that's the thing. We're changing all the time. We're going through phases all the time. And we get the rhythm because that's part of the rhythm and the routine, right? That's 6th house. Yeah. And we get that, and we kind of nail that for a little while. But then we change, it changes, everything changes.
Well, it's moving target, right? Yeah. Like health and life is a moving target, and this is a mutable house. It's a mutable. It's not as strong as 7th or 1st. It's literally a changing house all the time.
Yeah.
But it's mutable, traditionally Earth, right? In the physicality. It's a physical house, right? Like there's a long since passed away, Robert Karl Jansky wrote an incredible book on medical astrology and nutrition. And he talks about the 2nd is, where we value what we put into our body, where we choose the foods we eat, right? Mm-hmm. So the 2nd house is our tastes and pleasure, that Venus, Taurus, 2nd house. So we choose the foods in the 2nd in some ways. The 6th is how we turn it into us and absorb it, and how we choose, how we do our diet. 5th house is how we cook the food that we then process and turn into us, right? It's a creative process of cooking and chefing. And then the 10th, if we're going, he talks about the triangle of the earth houses. The 10th is your fruits of your labors. It's your reputation and what we look like physically from what we've done in the 2nd and the 6th. And it's such a beautiful way to describe the physical houses, the earth houses.
Yeah, I really love that. I haven't thought about that before, of the creative act in the 5th of the cooking, and then when you just said that, it really struck me of, what of what we eat is going to become us.
Yeah.
So that mutability of the earth, right? What is the...
Oh, sorry, I'm interrupting. I got too excited.
No, that's okay. Go. I was going to just say, what is the self? And as far as like this whole thing about the 6th and the self-containment, but also the self is becoming the nature that we're putting into us. And, like there's this, the mutability of that earth, I think is a really fascinating thing to just drop into and feel. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's so refined in some ways and so trying to be perfect and trying to be the best it can be and exhausting itself in the meantime. The sixth house is tired. Like it's an exhausting, it's got the labors, it's got,
I mean, that to me brings us into the 12th and that oppositional frequency between 6th and 12th. And maybe we can look through those joys as we talked about before coming on air, the Mars and the Saturn, because Saturn is in its joy in the 12th. And you said the acute is Mars, really, and the 6th.
Well, acute illness is the 6th house. Chronic illness is the 12th.
Right. And chronic,
which is literally
of course,
Mars and Saturn.
Yeah. And chronic is literally chronos, as in time-bound. And chronos is Saturn, and so Saturn is there. It just makes a lot of sense. This joys thing has been really great to learn about deeper as going around the journey. So,
and I'm not great with the joys beyond the medical side of it, but Saturn, the 12th house is hospitals, institutions where we're hidden away. It's actually being bedridden, like lying in bed and resting and being immobilized. And Saturn is the traditional ruler of sleep. Before we had outers, everyone goes, oh no, it's the moon, but it's also Saturn. And sleep, Saturn is staying still. It's not moving, it's resting. And like to be immobilized is Saturn. Like if you cast a broken arm, that's a Saturn treatment. And we make chemicals while we're asleep. We make chemicals that paralyze our body, because otherwise when we're in REM state, our whole body would be flying around, not just our eyes. And Saturn is paralysis. Like medical astrology in the houses is like just astrology, and everything is amazing. But the 12th house is resting before you get reborn and you're out there. And part of long-term health is rest and convalescence and sleep, which is all very 12th house. And if you don't pay attention to your acute illnesses and health in the 6th, if you don't put in the hard work in the 6th, you land yourself in the chronic illness state of the 12th.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a really important statement.
Yes.
I feel. And I'm just feeling like when you, it's not light. It's not a light.
No, it's not. It's not. It'd be nice if it was.
Yeah. If health just sort of happened and maintained itself by itself, but it doesn't. And that's that Mars part of that. But then also, when we went into that, the institutions and the hospitalizations and the, and these places that the 12th are, it just really took me to the mythic of Kronos or Saturn swallowing his children, right? And so being swallowed essentially and immobilized into the belly.
Oh my God, they like disappeared.
They disappeared, right? Yeah. They're gone.
Oh my gosh.
And that's what happens to us in the 12th, and that's what happens to us with Saturn processes, if we're doing it right, I think, actually, is to sort of really look at things, like really realize what we've been doing that is contributing to our poor health.
Yes. And often if we don't listen, if we don't pay attention, like I said, to those acute signals, you land in the 12th. And we talked about this earlier. I don't know if it was already here or prior. People don't make change often unless they're in pain, right? Pain is a great motivator for change because you want to get out of pain, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to sit still. Sitting still in the 12th house is very painful for people because they want to push on and they want to do stuff. And it's like they haven't paid enough attention in the 6th. They get caught in the 12th in this chronic state where they have to like hide away, but admit to their pain to move forward and be reborn into the 1st.
Which is also...
Was that too out there?
No, not at all. I'm just going to go a little further out there and go that,
good.
that's... That to me is so Asclepian, and the incubation. Ultimately, the
Mm.
Abaton is an incubation chamber. And I was reading a bit more about it recently of like sometimes in the ancient healing worlds, and these were the first hospitals, completely surrounded by nature, and the hot springs and the cold springs were there, and the priests and the priestess physicians were around, and
Yes.
that deep
Yes, please.
care, and yeah,
Yeah.
please, and Hestia, the temple to Hestia is there, and the hearth and everything, like this deep honoring that was going on in those places that, you know, a month ago when we were at Epidaurus, really feeling with the crew that went in there, like they all dropped into these places, and it felt so nourishing to not be walking over the top of the place, but to be really dropping in with the embodiment crew. It was very special, actually, very, very profound for all of us. But what I was reading about was that sometimes people would be in the incubation chamber for weeks handling chronic illness.
Yeah.
And the priests and priestesses would just bring a little bit of food so that they can just, you know, a little bit of just enough food to keep you alive. And then, but ultimately don't come up from that, stay down there. And that's where Asclepius in the dream world would be doing the deepest layers of healing. And when we see images of Asclepius, he's a very stern figure. You know, he has a Saturnianness to him, actually.
Yes. Yes. The Saturn knows.
And he's saying, stay here. Do not move. Do not get up. Do not attend to your daily life. Do not head into the sixth. When you're ready, we'll bring you back out into the first, or maybe we'll bring you back out with information about the sixth, because that was the two ways that he would heal, either through the dreams themselves or through, like, the dream would do the healing in that deep world, or he would show you through the dreams what you needed to change in the sixth. What's your daily world?
It's that 6/12, right? The dream state, the hiding away, the incubation, back to the sixth, right there. The 6 to the 12th, I find so fascinating. The other interesting thing is that triggered me when you were saying all that, not triggered in a bad way, but like reminded me. Saturn is fasting. Saturn is to abstain from food.
Yeah.
Right? Restriction.
Yes.
So it may, and often we need to decrease our food intake. I mean, Saturn would be losing weight. Jupiter is gaining weight, but we often fast. You know, people think about fasting for spiritual purification, but there's all this research on fasting for health, right?
Yeah.
And your body goes and literally like a snake in transformation, it eats up all your old, when you fast, your body has to eat itself. Which is almost like the snake.
Yeah. Ouroboros.
Thank you. I was going to pronounce that wrong. We go and we have where we eat our old dead and dying cells that we don't need anymore. You can use that as fuel for rejuvenation and youth. And again, 12th to 6th house, that youth of the 6th and Virgo or Demeter. Oh my God, there's so many ways I could go there. But yeah, so.
And even the purification of the springs come to mind, of the hot and cold springs, because there was such a long, arduous process, the labors of getting ready to go into the dream chamber, you know. Firstly, you had to go on a pilgrimage even to get there, and you may die on the pilgrimage. That was the reality, right? In the ancient world, you could die on your way to the healing place. So if you did make it, you'd be so relieved that you were there. You had made it through the pilgrimage firstly, just to enter the temple in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah. And we talk about, you know, the physical body is the temple, right?
Yeah.
How well do you take care of the temple and the physical body? And then you have that physical reality of the sixth to that dream state, other world, going into your, you know, into the collective. Yeah.
Into the collective unconscious, 12. And then all of the archetypes are there, and that's what arrives through your dreaming. And also snakes and dogs. So I wonder if this could take us, because those are the two that are sacred to Asclepius. But it's particularly interesting that dogs also with Artemis.
Oh yes.
Yeah. So
I thought about that.
So and then we have this house of the other thing in here, or one of the other things, is pets, small pets.
Domestic animals.
Yeah. How does that fit into this?
Yeah, I love that. Well, when you have a pet, it makes you be routined,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
It makes you have to walk your dog every day, or there's
Hmm.
problems, and it makes you produce food. But the sixth, and I'm sure there's other regular non-medical astrology, but pets, we know, um, help regulate our nervous system. Pets have this whole connection with joy. And, when you hug a human, it creates oxytocin that makes us feel the love chemical, right? It makes us feel loved. It makes us feel happy and connected. And when people don't live with other people, it's always suggested that you get a pet because people live longer and are happier that have pets, and they regulate our nervous system and calm us down, like cats purring on your
Mm.
belly, or, dogs are so devoted to us. They're literally, um, but they make us be routined and regulate our nervous system. They're both sixth house situations that
Yeah.
it's just, I think and often with health, if people are really unhealthy and they're not exercising, we often say, maybe you should get a dog,
Hmm.
because you will take a dog. You will be of service to your own dog and take it for a walk, but half the time we're not of service to our own health and take ourselves for exercise or a
Yeah.
walk, right? It
Mm-hmm.
makes us go do things on a routine, but gosh, they give back unconditionally, don't they?
Yeah. Beautiful. I'm also thinking about how the pet's life cycle is shorter than our life cycle. So we also witness within having a pet the whole life cycle that we are going through, but we get to see it on a microcosm level, don't we? Because
Yeah.
ultimately having a pet is also agreeing to being with them till their death, usually.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I hadn't thought about that. Yeah. You go through that. Yes. Unless your parents give away your pets before they
Unless,
die, which happened to me when I was young. I was like, I've never had a pet die. And then I was like,
right.
much as an adult before I went through that. I was like, that's a lot. I don't want to
Yeah,
get
it's so much. It's so much. I mean,
Mm.
happened to my my family. My sister just came back from Canada to Australia, shipped the pets back, and one of their cats uh, died a few months later, and so
After she
devastating.
paid $10,000
Yeah. So
to
there's
ship a cat
that
back
too.
to
There is
Australia. I know
there is
about
the
that
money.
cost.
Yeah, pretty
We joked
devastating.
about that when we immigrated a cat. We're like, this is a $10,000 cat.
Yeah, and that's $10,000 gone. But more to the point of that, what the feeling was like in an already destabilized family to lose a pet, and how much of a ripple that was, and could really feel that sort of like that was the pet that was going to come with them to give them routine and rhythm in their new place that could connect to the old place, and the loss was felt at an even deeper level to my three nieces who are teenage girls,
Yeah. Well, that's tough.
who really went through it. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's interesting because the fifth, the fourth is that home. You get a home, and then fifth, I know, is creativity and all the things that you've talked about when you do the fifth. But fifth is also the ultimate creativity is babies. Like fifth house is
Hmm.
babies.
Yeah, generations.
Um, and but and often, I mean, lots of people have pets, but often when people haven't had children, they get a pet and they will talk about their pet like their baby, right? I had this conversation with someone about, if you don't have kids, are your small pets actually sixth house or fifth house? Because they talk about their pets like a
Huh.
fifth house situation,
Huh.
right? Like in a medical consult, when I say, do you have kids, to somebody, have you had babies? And they're like, well, I have blah, blah. And that people will introduce their pets as their children to me.
Hmm.
And which is yeah. And then you move to that sixth routine that we're talking about. And then, yeah, yeah. Or, if you're not in relationship, like a one-on-one partnership, that sixth house, people often get pets, right? Before they're in a relationship, right? There's
Hmm.
the sixth is so interesting, sitting between the fifth and the seventh. I've never thought about
Yeah.
it this way, but the sixth anchors the fifth and the seventh if it's feeling empty.
Yeah.
Ooh, does it? Maybe in some way.
Well, I love that because I think it connects the two. And what you just said there really resonates with me, that the pets are preparing you for the seventh, in that that's that preparation to go into the next.
Take care of another.
And take care of another.
Yeah. Yeah. And, when people are, I'm going into very weird ideas here. Not weird, but, when people are single, they have more time, but they often have a bigger focus on their health and fitness, right? Because they want to look good for meeting somebody.
Yeah.
And again, it anchors from the 5th to the 7th, and it's a physical house anchoring.
Anchoring between the 5th and the 7th. So that feels fairly significant to me, the anchoring. And I'm thinking about that in the terms of, if we go, and I'm heading off on a tangent.
That's all right. That was a tangent I've never been on before.
Okay. So. I'm thinking about, like, one of the things that I think it was Melanie talking about this many years ago, that I really enjoyed the idea of 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th as relational, like that section. So like the 5th is more romance. And then the 6th turns that romance into a day-to-day experience. Yeah. Right. And so each one's a threshold, from the romance to becoming day-to-day, from the day-to-day to becoming the marriage, or whatever archetypally marriage is. And then from that into the 8th of true, deep intimacy. Yeah. And each one has that threshold. And of course, we're going back and forth. It's not necessarily so chronological, but there is a chronological component to it. But a healthy relationship would have all 4 houses working in a way.
Yes. Yeah. And if
right. And the 6 is in the middle of that in a way. The 6 is the anchor point, because the 6 is the only earthy one in that mix.
But daily life can also get very monotonous.
Yeah. In which case one would have to return. Return to the 5th.
And if you start ignoring the 5th in your monotony,
that's
the 7th
dangerous.
starts having trouble.
Yes. And then everything goes back to the root of the 5th and loses itself, which is your relationship myth is also in the 5th. That's your creation story. Yeah. How did you meet? This is the one that my dear friend Margie, who's been on the podcast many years ago, it's like she asks a couple, because she was a relationship therapist, and she would ask the couple, so how did you meet? And then listen to the story and try to hear the myth, the relationship myth in how they met.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
And that is just like any origin myth, we come back to that when we've lost our way. So in a sense, the relationship myth is to come back to the 5th when we've lost our way. Yeah. Like, wow. Yeah. That Marie-Louise von France tells this story that like really sums this up, that in an Indonesian village, there was, the rice wasn't growing. And so the villagers went down and got deep down into the dirt and started to whisper to the rice the story of rice and how rice came to be in the origin myth underneath rice, so that it would grow again, because it had obviously forgotten its own story, which means it couldn't generate anymore.
Aww.
Which makes me think about the 6th, if it loses touch with the 5th on multiple levels, not just in the,
Well, and even down back to the 4th and your roots, like root vegetables and like your roots in general. And the 4th has, we think of the 6th as grain, right? And the harvest, Demeter.
Yeah.
But the 4th is actually planting foods and agriculture is part 6, but it's actually like farming and like cows and dairy, and some of that comes from the 4th first, and then it's the growth process is the 5th to the harvest of the 6th.
Mm-hmm. So
I love that origin story, because it has to have a root going down to that.
It has to have, that's what comes back to the 4th. That would probably be the origin story, but the creation myth would be the 5th. And so then you could sort of just play inside of that and go back and forth in order to reconnect, right? To reconnect to that, what are we doing here? And, when it does become, when anything in life becomes too, that would be a trap of the 6th, wouldn't it? That things become too routine, too much in the mundane. And actually not connected to anything anymore. like Sisyphus rolling the boulder up the hill, you know, like it's not connected to anything
It's
anymore.
freaking exhausting.
It's fucking
Yeah.
exhausting.
It's funny. And of course, I'm going to do a total Aries and think about myself for a second.
Sure, go.
Because I hadn't heard about the creation. Like, no one's ever asked me about well, people do ask you how you meet your partners. But my partner of 24 years,
Yeah.
we met doing sport,
Huh.
right?
Yeah.
And literally, when we were out of balance in our, taking care of a child and whatever, he and I, our thing is to go do sport together to find our rhythm again. And I've never thought about it. Well, we're both sporty people.
Yeah.
But we come back to the roots. We actually met in a cafe. So we were eating, but we met through sport and sport people.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that funny? And we literally balance each other. We would never do a holiday that didn't involve sport, like literally ever. And we do you do your holiday to rebalance. Like, we would never go sit on a beach as a holiday. We're like, oh, we're about to go hike in the Dolomites, or we go skiing.
That's recreation, which is obviously recreation, right? So recreation is to come back also to your origin myth. So it's beautiful to hear that, 24 years. So 2 sets of 12.
Yeah.
Right. So we've got
Jupiter.
Yeah, we've got a couple of cycles there, and it's great to hear that you do just naturally. And I think this is the thing, we do naturally just return to our origin anyway. We do that just almost.
So what happens to the people that meet in nightclubs while they're drunk?
Well, why not? Go for it. Like, you go back to that. Like, why not?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That
if things get... why not go back into the club together and, relive and recreate? Yeah. But it is interesting. And if you think about that through past relationships, if you're listening, you can really see the story is in how did you meet? Because oftentimes, how did you part is part of that original story too. So there's that sort of whole thing in the ones that do close. You can see the ending in the beginning too. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
And then ones that don't
so many
close
houses we talk about. Yeah.
The ones that don't close are able to return to the root again and again, right? And remember why you're doing what you're doing. Remember what this is all about. Remember the meaning of it all.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Oh, so much to learn. I love your level of mythology and how it intertwines with everything. Just gives it such and I know that's what your podcast is and what you do, but it's such a fun flavor to learn, to add that next layer onto. You can do astrology for forever or for me, health, but then there's the myth on top of it that then interconnects it all. It's just so beautiful. Yeah.
Well, I love that also, part of meeting you in at the conference in January was to feel into all these other elements of astrology and to feel sort of like my little section of that is the mythic and the psychological, but to be so connected to your work and loving what you were bringing, which does come, it sort of balances out in a sense. It is more 6th to my 12th in a sense. And I really enjoy that because then I can realize, there's plenty of my world that is 6th house. And, I do have that strong, I do feel like that Mars and its joy in the 6th is very strong in my life. And when I do let that go, I pay the price for that in a sense, right? Like it's really interesting to feel all of that. But what you bring to the table is so complementary to what I do. So I really love that connection between the two of us.
The 6th, to take it back to the 6th, is the practical and that physical and the physicality of health. But health, actually, true health, is health kind of all the elements, not just the physical. It's the emotional, it's the mental, it's the physical and health of the spirit or the soul. It takes up all the elements, and it is very the mutable houses, which I've never actually thought about it that way.
Yeah.
You've got the 6th, which is that practical, physical. You've got that 12th, very emotional, but all the psychology we've been talking about, or that collective unconscious myth. You've got that 9th house, that search for meaning, that questing spirit, which is very fire, but it's also muscles and movement. And then we've got the third being a very mental, air house. It's, I always talk naturopathically, true health is those four elements in balance.
Right.
The mental, physical, emotional, spiritual. You got to have all those.
And there's the mutable
oppositions.
cross of houses.
Yeah.
And I love the mutability of it because they are all experiments with the temporary nature of things, right? Because they're all at the edge of, this is ending now and I know it, but I must tend to this because I must tend to it even though it's ending, right? Even though because they all exist on the edge of the next big line, whether that's ascendant, descendant, IC, they're all just before that next big threshold.
The next journey.
But they can't be caught in that this section doesn't matter. I'll just head off into, it's like, no, this matters, this part, even though it's impermanent.
And it's changeable. And all of those things to do with our health, mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, are always going to change. Like, that's a moving target, like we talked about, right? Health isn't just the sixth house, it's all the houses. And it's like, all the journey of life if we get away from health, but the whole process of what we're here to learn.
Well, that's why it's like we're in the 6, but we're also in the 12 labors, right? I mean, Hercules is a sixth house Martian figure doing all these labors of the 6, but it's 12 of them. So it seems to me the more we talk about the 6, the more it actually moves out into the rest of the wheel. I can feel how the 6 goes out and gathers up every other house, and then brings it back to the 6 and goes out again and gathers it up and brings it back. I can feel a sort of mycelium sort of component to that, reaching out and reaching back, mulching.
Well, and if we're talking about like Hercules and the labors, and we talked about the sixth house being that, but that, the sixth house is also, your tools and instruments, the sixth house is also, isn't it the house of apprenticeship?
Oh, I like that.
Right.
One.
If we go back to regular astrology, not medical, I'm trying to be more lateral here. House of apprenticeship and learning, because you're learning with each labor, but you're actually having to put that work in. And the sixth house is about service to others, or it's that very sacrificial house of putting in all that service to others. And some of the, you can bring the mythology in here. Some of the labors, it's interesting how we've brought it into that. And it is a bit of a house of suffering in some ways, right?
Yeah, suffering. Yeah, and that's why one of the images that has been coming up as we've been talking about it is like that face on the statues of Hercules sometimes, where you just see the hardship, and also on Asclepius, because he spends his whole existence essentially between life and death. That's where he's born. That's where he dies, by bringing someone back from the dead. He's born on his mother's funeral pyre. That's the first cesarean, which could be Artemis that goes and takes him from the womb. It could be. Generally, it's considered.
Do they not ever say who?
Well, they say Hermes does it, which also makes sense, right? Because that's the mercurial of Virgo too. But to me, I'm like, maybe some kind of combination. Sometimes you can just dream with it and be like, who would be the one to enter the fire and retrieve Asclepius?
Midwife.
Yeah, she's the midwife. Yeah.
Yeah. Where was Chiron when that was happening?
Well, they brought him.
He just gets handed to Chiron.
Yeah, he's handed to Chiron. So he's not, Chiron is off in his cave tinkering with things, not involved in the big saga of the birth, but definitely involved in the life. Heavily involved
and mentoring
in the life. And mentoring, And the Asclepian tradition was a passed down knowledge, father to son. Which, maybe has a little edge of the patriarchy in it. But if we take that edge out and we think parent to child, not actual parent, not actual child, but it would be like a foster relationship, mentoring. Yeah. And that's what Asclepius was to Chiron, a foster child, that he took him in as his own son and taught him everything that he knows for free, which was also part of that tradition. because those ones that are the apprentices, they're not the same as the ones that you charge. So in the ancient world, you would still have your schools and your medicine that would be just offered for money, but then there's a sacred bond between you and your apprentice that doesn't actually involve anything in the monetary world.
And when you think about, especially them, but mentoring or guiding and giving that detail, but you're living it with them, right? You're going through the everyday about it. So it's more than that education of whether it's third or ninth house. It's, apprenticeship, which is sixth house, is literally you were living with. A lot of people did medicine that way. They lived with somebody and learned it all by doing the detail of the sixth house. That was their it's an education house, but different.
Yeah, and that's the continuation of the lineage, because then if you've lived in such close proximity to the medicine holder and you've taken on all of the medicine, then you will hopefully, what's the word, like go beyond the master. That was hopefully what would happen, right? Transcend and move beyond and outgrow. And that's what Asclepius does with Chiron, because he takes in everything Chiron has, but then realizes Chiron isn't working within Psyche. So adds Psyche to the repertoire of healing.
Yeah.
Adds dreaming.
But that's the thing. And every great teacher should hope. Every great mentor wants the person to get better. That, they're going to add their own thing to the recipe, right? And make the recipe better. And I
just got a really juicy section, though, in my mind here, mythically.
Okay.
That it's Hercules that accidentally wounds Chiron, though.
Yes.
So sometimes the mentor-mentee relationship can involve a wounding accidentally with a stray arrow.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely.
I've seen that a few times.
And you do. You hear about it with teachers and students or people you've learned from, and there has to be that crisis of pain to move into your own being.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh my God, there's so many layers.
I know.
Chiron. You and I have a Chiron Asclepius conversation.
Yes.
Like
maybe. Yes. Oh, we haven't even talked Hygeia, but another day. I feel like that's already so rich and full and complete in its own way. So I'm feeling like there's a completion here, and also many little dream doors that are still kind of left ajar for another time. And we will hopefully put our foot in those doors and enter those in other ways at other times.
Yeah. Yeah, it was awesome. Thank you for letting me be a part of the houses, and especially the sixth. It was so, when we were talking about it. I don't even know why we didn't think of the sixth first. It's so funny and obvious.
We thought ninth, didn't we? I mean,
well, we're too beautiful. We're like, what?
Yeah, of course. But the sixth just makes total sense.
Thank you obvious.
For so much for coming back on the show for the second time. I'm glad we had our sort of like introduction episode, and now you're one of the friends of the podcast. So it's so fantastic to have you on. And thank you for sharing such your wisdom, your knowledge, and everything that, it's great to talk to you, because you have such a field of knowledge around medical astrology and the rest of astrology too, that is really, it's like a well to come back to, it's like a well to just come back and to speak to you about these things. So thank you from my audience as well. Thank you. They really responded super well to your last one, and I'm sure they'll love this one. Yeah.
Yeah. And this one they get juicier and juicier. It was so fun. Thank you for letting me be a part of it. Yeah. It's so fun to be a part of this. So thank you.
Wonderful. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Kira Sutherland. You can find Kira. I'll put I put all the stuff. Join her newsletter and get into everything that she does. She's amazing. Is there anything that you want to tell the people before we go?
I'm terrible at self-advertising. I get all nervous. So just come find the newsletter. It's not that frequent. Or find me on socials, and I'm making my statement.
Yeah.
By the end of the year, we're in 2025. I want to call this. by November, I should have my first book done on medical astrology. And beautifully, it is literally only on the houses in medical astrology. So very fitting. You didn't even know that until
I
today. But
know. It
yeah,
makes me so
it's
happy. Yeah.
it's so fun. And it's just the houses and rhythms and what to learn medically from the houses, but all the houses, not just the specific known medical houses.
Well, I cannot wait for that
Mm.
book, and I think that's going to come out as a real. I will make sure to, when it does come out, because I'll still be in the houses tour until
Yes.
the equinox next year in March. So, yeah, let me know, and I'll put some stuff out there so people, when it does come out, they can know where to go and get that. I'll be getting my copy as soon as I possibly can. Hopefully, the early editions.
You might get an early copy.
Yes.
You might get an unedited copy.
Yeah, wonderful.
You can see my big picture lack of spelling. But anyway, don't worry,
Spelling,
there's
not
Virgos
necessary.
analyzing my spelling.
so not
People,
necessary.
don't worry.
All right, Kira, thanks so much again. And I look forward to our next one.
I'm sure we'll chat soon.
Thank you for listening to On the Soul's Terms podcast. To support the show, please consider leaving a 5-star review, sharing with friends, or becoming a patron at patreon.com/onthesoulsterms. Until next time.